Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the Kenny and Renny podcast. I'm Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press, soon to be joined by a special guest. I'll keep you in suspense for a little bit longer as you kick back and join me on the Jim Pattison on Regent opening drive. I've borrowed the keys from my lovely wife Stacy to the Toyota Highlander, and it won't be a traditional trip to the buffet because our special guest, I don't want to keep him waiting too long. So, folks, reporting live from the American Airlines Center where the Winnipeg Jets suffered a 4-3 overtime loss to the Dallas Stars in a game that featured plenty of wild action, especially in that third period where the Jets gave up the lead late. Managed to find a goal at 6-on-5 from Logan Stanley that caromed in off a Stars player. Only to open things up in overtime where the Jets had a great breakaway chance from Mark Scheifele that was kicked out by Jake Ottinger, allowing Thomas Harley to deliver the GWG at the other end. That leaves the Jets with a 2-1-1 record from this four-game road trip, which included stops in New Jersey against the Devils, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, and the Dallas Stars. And it's super interesting. I mean, this game reminded me way more of the playoff series with the Stars than what we've seen from Winnipeg for a good chunk of this season. We know the Stars and Jets are wildly separated by a whopping 22 points in the standings, but today they look like two heavyweights going head to head, knock them down, drag them out kind of affair. Had some offense, had some physical nature, had some great goaltending, and had a little bit of controversy. And since our guest has a little bit of history with the mask, we're going to talk to him about that too. So kick back, enjoy the ride, and let's not wait much longer here. Let's wrap up this edition of the Jim Pattison on Regent Toyota opening drive, and we will get to the fun stuff with Dennis Bayak here. Finding the right vehicle can feel like a big decision, but the team at Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent make it easy. They'll help you find the perfect fit from their wide selection of new and pre-owned Toyotas, all backed by great service and honest advice. So if you're ready for something new, stop by Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent or start your search online at jptoyotaregent.com. And without further ado, welcoming back a familiar voice to many of you, none other than Dennis Bayak. Dennis joining us live from the West Coast. Good evening, sir. How are you doing today?
Kenneth, how are you? First, a history lesson. Kelowna is not the West Coast.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for that. I didn't do very well in geography, as you just found out.
But I'm good. Thank you. Good
Yes.
to be here. You've lowered the bar. Not just lowered the bar, you put it right on the ground.
Well, no, the bar is in a good place. Kenny and friends this week, and I'm sure even though I can report happily that Sean has arrived in Milano Cortina, Italy. He's fired up for his first Olympics, and he did make it. It's the middle of the night there. He did wake up briefly to catch the end of the game and wanted to tell folks say hello, especially to you, Dennis. And it should be interesting. I mean, I know you've been keeping busy. What stood out to you from this game we just saw at American Airlines Center?
Well, pretty good road trip for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, normally you would look at the teams they had to face on this trip, and to come home 2-1-1, you would think that's a good trip, and it is. But unfortunately, with Utah winning tonight, they don't gain any ground. They went into the game 9 points out, and they're still 9 points out. LA dropped out. Utah jumped in, and that's the problem you face when you have teams in between you and where you want to end up. But it was a really good hockey game. I mean, the games on this entire trip have really been good. Even the Tampa one they lost was a good game. The Florida game was a good game. Was happy for the Winnipeg fans that were at the Florida game, to see a win there. A nice comeback in the third period. And then it was a good game tonight, a typical Winnipeg Jets, Dallas Stars game, back and forth. Big saves, high intensity, some good hits, some good plays. And then when all was said and done, the Rantanen Harley combination that, was kind of been a nemesis for the Winnipeg Jets steps up. But it was a good hockey game tonight. It really was.
Yeah, Dennis, I couldn't agree more. And again, we try to let folks know how the sausage gets made every now and then, and as you already know, but man, for a newspaper guy that already had a 7:30 start working against that started at 7:40. A game tying goal at about 9:58 made for a little bit of a late rewrite, and I have to thank my colleague Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press, who touched up a few things as I hustled down to the room to do the interviews. But yeah, I mean, I wrote it this is like getting in the hot tub time machine back to May, Dennis. I mean,
Yeah.
in domination station, and there's Thomas Harley. Now, again, obviously the stakes aren't as high. Harley ended the Jets season in
Right.
game last year in overtime, but man, a lot of parallels in that game, including the series. I mean, like the series was kind of like this, pretty much even Steven, even in shots after the first, second, and third periods, back and forth game. Each team had the lead, only to cough it up momentarily. And at the end of the day, it was just a highly entertaining game from two teams that have now played 3 1-goal games this season.
And even a similar script for the Winnipeg Jets. The power plays in the first period, they have some great chances, don't score. Dallas gets the power play, comes back and takes the lead. Jets come back, and then before Stanley scores the tying goal late, Kyle Connor has the great look that goes off the crossbar, and you think, okay, here we go again. But then Stanley does tie it, and then Scheifele gets the breakaway in overtime, as you mentioned, and Ottinger makes the big save, and Dallas comes back and finds a way to win the hockey game on something. You saw Connor Hellebuck at the end of the game, a snap, and that's kind of a play on words there, because I think it was the snap on his face mask that had come off on a previous shot. Right. And I think he felt the play should have been whistled down, and he should have been allowed to get that repaired and looked at, and that didn't happen. A tough call for the referees. It's a game in overtime, especially 3-on-3. It's fast, and they don't know how serious it is. Is it going to affect him making a save or not? Do we blow it down? Do we not blow it down? Scheifele has a breakaway. We can't blow it down now. And then all of a sudden back they come, and the next thing you know, it's over. But yeah, you know what? It was a good hockey game. We saw a lot of star power on both sides, and it was a gritty game in front of the net. We saw a lot of that, as you should, at this time of the year. Certainly Dallas, points-wise, is a far better team. But the Winnipeg Jets hung in there right with them, right to the bitter end. And now it's critical for them to go home. And it's tough. You're back from that road trip. Montreal will beat them into Winnipeg tonight because Montreal played in Minneapolis. And so they'll be there waiting for the Winnipeg Jets to come home. But they need to get themselves ready for that game against Montreal on Wednesday and try and pick up 2 more points and try and hang in the fight here.
Yeah, Dennis. I mean, and that's the thing with this play, with the mask especially. Like, Connor doesn't want it blown during the breakaway, right? I mean,
No.
This is the one thing where I know Jets fans are thinking, they'll think back. I mean, and I'm pretty sure you were here for it. I mean, the Jamie Benn special,
yes,
stick across the mask and goal is allowed to stand. And I mean, we know what that led to. That led to the Connor Hellebuck, present PowerPoint presentation to the National Hockey League. So,
I mean, his other option would have been to just flip the mask off.
Right.
But then you run the risk of the referee giving you 2 minutes for delay. So you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard spot, and away you go. Because the minute that mask is off, play is going to get whistled down. That was his other option. But then, like I said,
right,
you run the risk of the referee calling 2 minutes for delay of game, and now you're shorthanded in overtime. But you know what? It's a bang play, and it's tough to make those calls. But initially, when I saw it, I was almost wondering whether there was a bad line change by the Dallas Stars, because somebody jumped on before somebody got off. In fact, it might have even been Harley coming off the bench, and that's what I thought that was maybe what the controversy was all about. But after the post game interviews, it became apparent that it was about to buckle.
And the other thing too, Dennis, I mean, I don't know how long they stuck with the camera work, but man, this was an animated discussion with Hellebuck.
Oh, yes.
He took the mask off, and he went with the referee all the way down the ice. I mean, this was heated for folks who might have turned away as soon as the goal was scored. Man, I mean, everyone in the press box, I mean, yes, we're trying to finish the stories and writing, but we're like, man, what's going on with Hellebuck here? I mean, it was heated. And, we know that Connor Hellebuck feels strongly, A, about goalie interference, and B, about protection for goaltenders. So, that was something else. I mean, obviously Adam Lowry, handled it in a composed manner, and so did Scott O'Neill. But that was a vintage Connor Hellebuck. Wasn't happy with how things ended and wasn't afraid to stand up for himself. So,
Well, as
anyways,
everybody knows, at this time of the year, when you look at where the Jets are in the standings and how badly they need points, everything gets magnified. Every penalty gets magnified. Every power play gets magnified. Faceoffs get magnified. Everything becomes a more critical part of a hockey game because the line between winning and losing and needing points and getting points is so fine that everybody's ramped up and hard fought game against a division rival, and you like to see that. You like to see that intensity, and but the game's over, and as we talked about, get regrouped and get ready for Montreal Wednesday.
Certainly interesting. Before I get to you, I know I said you were looking sharp, and that's because you're a guy who has shopped at Vittorio Rossi in the past, Dennis, where the good folks, you should, folks that are watching, head down to Vittorio Rossi, tell them Kenny and Renny sent you, and they'll make sure you're looking sharp like Dennis did throughout his National Hockey League career, especially with those times with the Winnipeg Jets. Go see Frankie and the boys down on Corridon Avenue, and they will take care of you.
Actually,
Dennis, quick.
I should have put one of Frank's suits on if I'd have known that you were going to be all decked out here. I thought maybe the game was over. Then I forgot you're a TV star now, so you left the tie and the shirt on. But yeah, you know what? Frank and the guys looked after me very well. I'm not sure if Manfred and Michael are still there, but they did a great job with me, and it was always enjoyable to drop in there and have a cappuccino and say hello, even if you weren't shopping. But you're a good bunch of guys there.
Good humans for sure. And we'll get back to the game in a second, Dennis, but just curious for your thoughts. I mean, Jeremy Swayman, the third member of Team USA, certainly in the news today for the goalie fight with Andrei Vasilevsky. Today we had Jake Ottinger and Connor Hellebuck going head-to-head in a fantastic game, which we know Bill Guerin and the management team and the coaching staff would have all been keeping a very keen eye on. All three guys basically... not just similar numbers, almost identical when it comes to goals against average and save percentage. What's your gut tell you about what we might see as Team USA gets rolling here for game one of the Olympics?
Well, just as we talk about Jordan Binnington, because of the Four Nations getting the start for Canada, even though his numbers aren't what the Kempers are and what Logan Thompson's are, the same thing with Team USA. I mean, do you look back at the Four Nations and say, this is what Connor Hellebuck did for us, so we're going to give him, pretend we're going to make him the incumbent, and he's going to get the start in the first game. So, but they'll have to make that decision. And again, good decisions, tough decisions, but good ones to have. I mean, certainly good goaltending on Team USA. You mentioned the three guys, and I mean, Swayman wore a left hand from Vasilevsky that I'm not sure he was expecting. I didn't see the whole Swayman interview, but the first thing should have been, I didn't know that Vasilevsky was a lefty. And that, but you know what? It was a great game, just because it got away from Tampa right off the start, right. And then they came back and then the goalie fight at center ice, and I love the way they got out of the pile. Right. And got away from everybody else and made sure their masks were off, and Swayman got rid of the stick, and they dropped them, and away they went. So it was good. But yeah, you know what? I would expect, my gut would tell me that Connor Hellebuck will get the start in game one for Team USA.
Yeah, I'm thinking the exact same thing. And Dennis is someone who had plenty of experience in the Western League. Not necessarily with goalies going at it, but that must have reminded you of some of those camps where the young up-and-comers gave the old helmet twirl at center ice and wanted to get at it in an effort to try to make the team.
Well, you always had the guys who waited till everybody else was over. Right. And then they went to center ice, and they wanted to be the main attraction. They weren't gonna have this 3-4 fights going on at the same time. They were waiting till everybody else had calmed down, and away they went. But you know what? It got better near the end. Certainly the early years in the Western Hockey League were wild. I mean, training camps were, almost to the point of ridiculousness sometimes. I remember Mike Babcock and Dave Brown going 3 times in the same session in Saskatoon at a training camp. And actually, Mike Babcock held his own pretty good. But then, the latter years, that all straightened out. It got to the point where, you know what, we want you at training camp to show what you can do. Show us your talent. Show us your skill. And a lot of that calmed down because, I mean, preseason games back when I started in the Western Hockey League, you were in for 3 hours and 15 minutes if you were in for 10 minutes. I mean, that's just the way they went and that. But no, it calmed down pretty good. But you know what? It certainly got you know what? It is funny. You talk about
people talking about it.
Violence in hockey. We don't want fighting. We don't want this. There wasn't a person sitting when Vasilevsky and Swayman went to center ice. Everybody was up on their feet, and everybody was on Twitter saying how great this was and everything else. Nobody got hurt. That was the best part of the whole thing. You know, especially with Swayman getting ready for the Olympics and Vasilevsky getting ready for 2 weeks on the beach.
Yeah, no doubt. And just quickly, I mean, outdoor game like that made folks in Manitoba think about the Heritage Classic in October. You were part of a cup. You're exactly the big fella. Let's start there. And I also have to tell you before we really get going, there have been a few suggestions in our chat room that maybe one Dennis Bayak step behind the bench of the Jets alumni team. What do you think about that? Might we see you at Investors Group?
You never know. October's a long ways away, but no, there's far more qualified people and deserving people to be part of what you're talking about there than what I am. So it'll be, you know what, it'll be exciting for the city. It was the last time. It will be again this time. Now, am I right here to think that the alumni game is indoors?
Yes, sir. Yes, this time it will be indoors. Yes, you did.
That's kind of wussing out, isn't it?
It's a good question. I still have a few questions that we need some answers for, but as you mentioned, I think it'll be excellent to see Dustin Byfuglien. I did see him at the Hockey Hall of Fame festivities there. He was briefly got to say hello. He was there to support Duncan Keith. He was also in Chicago for that event, and I got to tell you, I'm sure you saw it, but man, when they showed the lineup on the scoreboard inside Canada Life Center, with the big fella having some highlight reel plays, the place went pretty bonkers. Yeah. What do you think it'll be like? I mean, you saw Dustin at its peak Byfuglien mania. Fans never really got a chance to say goodbye to him. What do you think it's going to be like for them to have a chance to see him and give him a proper send off, if you will?
I think going into that weekend, if you did a survey of a lot of fans, what are you looking forward to? It's going to be Dustin Byfuglien. And maybe I'm over-exaggerating it and overstating it. I just think it's going to be a huge ovation for when he comes on the ice. If he does, I'm sure you guys will all be after him for some media availabilities. Buff can be Buff. If you get him on a good mood, he'll be great.
True.
If you don't, you never know what he might tell you. He'll give you the Marshawn Lynch. I'm only here because I don't want to get fined.
As long as we stick together, things will be okay.
Exactly. But no, you know what? I think the city of Winnipeg will be very, very excited to welcome Dustin back. He understands that. I think he's going to embrace it, and I think the whole weekend is going to be a terrific weekend. Maybe a much younger lineup than what we saw in the last alumni game in Winnipeg. Now, those guys, despite being older, did play outside. Hint, hint, message to all those guys. But
not a lot of shifts for Gretzky, though, from what I recall.
Yeah, exactly.
More time on the bench and more visiting.
Yeah. So it'll be different, but you know what? I just think the city would be excited to see the guys back. Even to see Mike Keane, lace them up again for the other guys. I hope Brian Skrudlin comes, and some of the other guys. So I think it'll be a fun event, but I do think the city will embrace the return of Dustin Byfuglien.
Yeah, Dennis, I mean, you were there from the beginning, 2011 for the 2.0 era. I mean, what's it like to see, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, Blake Wheeler, all being alumni? Here we are 15 years in, it'll be 16 by the time it comes around. But, what does that make you think of?
Well, it does. It takes me back to, and it's a bit of an anniversary year for the Winnipeg Jets. It does take you back to that first year, the excitement in the city, even going back before that. Go back to the announcement
Yeah.
And that May weekend in Winnipeg, when the announcement was made official, and the NHL, the team was coming back to Winnipeg. So the Atlanta Thrashers were moving to Winnipeg. The excitement started then, and it never let up. Never forget the weather on opening weekend. It was like October 7, 8, 9, and the temperature was in the 30s Celsius. And all these people had come from other parts of Canada with heavy clothes and heavy jackets, and thinking October in Winnipeg, they must not have heard of the Weather Network by then. And it was a great weekend, and away we went from there. So, they lost that opening game, but still the excitement was what you would expect. And away they went from there. I think the lockout took some of the zip out of some of the fans. That was unfortunate. And then they got back, and away they went from there. And then, to have the run of 2018, which was terrific. You still go back to Game 6 at home against Nashville. If they win that and give themselves a few more days off, but that's woulda, shoulda, coulda, and hindsight. So you go from there, and then last year's run and everything else. So it'll be exciting.
Dennis, I've known you for a long time. I don't think I've ever asked you this. I know where I was on the night that the Stephen Brunt report came up on the Globe and Mail. I was at my friend Ray Carrier's house watching a Boston Bruins playoff game. Was mad scramble to find my laptop, trying to piece together where the story was going to go. I'm not talking about the official announcement. I'm talking about the first story. Where were you, and what were your initial thoughts? Did you have any idea it might change your life?
No, at that point, absolutely not. Actually, we were still in Toronto, but getting ready to come out west. So a couple days later, we were in Winnipeg. A few days after the announcement was made official that they were coming back, and we were in Winnipeg. So then it just kind of went from there. And one meeting led to another meeting, and then the discussion about where the rights were going to go, what were the TV rights going to be, what were the radio rights going to be, and then it really wasn't until late in the summer when everything finally got finalized and it was official that even though I probably had a real good idea 2 weeks earlier, barring something major, I was going back to my home province. But that whole summer, right from when Stephen Brunt first reported it to the first few comments were not a chance. This isn't happening.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it picked up steam, and the next thing you know, the announcement was real, and the celebration at the Forks, and way it kind of went from there. So exciting times for sure.
And too, how about the going out and seeing the uniform unveil at the military base there too? And
thanks to True North and the Winnipeg Jets, I was part of that. That was before I actually had moved back to Winnipeg full time. It was a beautiful day, and I remember having breakfast with Brian Munns and Shane Knighty. And at that point in time, I think Shane was still debating whether he was going to try and look for a contract in the NHL or whether he was going to become an analyst.
Right.
And he'd made the right decision, even though he probably would have, gotten a contract maybe for the back half of that year or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, just the excitement, with the airplane and the jersey unveiling and the players that were there. You mentioned Andrew Ladd. Andrew Ladd is going into the BC Hockey Hall of Fame here in July. And just a couple of days ago, I was asked to MC the event. So,
very cool.
Looking forward to that. Josh Green, I was in Toronto when he was there. Josh Georges, I know a little bit because he's a Kelowna guy, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, that day was the unveiling of just that whole time frame was a beautiful day. And then Sarah Lusky and I'll never forget. The day before the opening game, we got a chance to go up on the F-17. The CF, I think it was a 17 or 18, the fighter jet.
Right.
And an experience that I will never forget. I mean, we did some flips and we did some somersaults, and they said, don't eat any greasy food before you get on the jet. But I was fine. And just, lots of great memories. we had, I still think back to the start there, and we had some great people on our telecast, and met so many good people.
Lots of laughs. Denny, I know you said you handled it well, but when you get up on a plane like that and go through that kind of stunt, we call that on this show the pristine roofing and siding wake up call. And you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick a call at 204-981-7289, or try the office at 204-237-7663. I know we sometimes give it to the commentary, but that must have been a bit of a wake up call. I know you were prepared for it, but nothing can quite prepare you for that kind of a feeling, I'm guessing.
Well, you know what I wasn't prepared for, because of my age. I did a real quick physical with one of the doctors there, but then just the training session that you go through before you get into the jet. With the harness that has to go on there, because it keeps your blood more in the top part of your body. And as the mock picks up, it tightens and tightens. And this was all new to me. I had no idea this was the case. And unfortunately, there were some forest fires at the same time in the north, because it kind of cut into how much time we had. I think initially we were going to go for like an hour, and I think we ended up going for like 40 minutes.
Right.
But it was a beautiful day. And, I've still got a very, very vivid memory of the loop, and you're totally upside down and looking up and seeing the ground. And, and then a couple of these and everything else. But I appreciate the opportunity. And I debated about it for a couple of seconds, and then I thought, what am I debating about this for? I'll never get a chance to do this again. And so go for it.
Right on. Good stuff. Sorry, I've gone a little around the block here. We'll get you back into some of the game thoughts here. Dennis, Cole Perfetti, obviously not the start to the season that he wanted, Dennis. I mean, a high ankle sprain has something to do with that, certainly. You've been around a lot of hockey players, and you know that this isn't an injury that you just come back and snap your finger after 6 to 8 weeks and you're back to 100% here. But what are you seeing from him lately? I think that gives him now 4 goals and 11 points in his last 17, scored in consecutive games. And the big thing for me is just to have been a little bit more involved in the play, getting to the hard areas. Today's goal is a beauty in the great precise passing from Velarde, but you got to find that quiet zone in front of the net. His assist is just as smart. It's a shot pass off the right pad. Beautiful play there. But what are you seeing from Cole's game as he's starting to get things turned around of late here?
Well, 6 weeks with an ankle sprain is different than 6 weeks with a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Because you can skate, you can, do almost anything that involves your fitness level. Whereas if you got that sprained ankle, which he had, and that's unfortunate, because you went into the start of the year and there was this hype that he was going to be a nice fit with Jonathan Taves on that second line, and then all of a sudden, bang, it doesn't happen. And then he sits out, comes back, and now by this time you're behind everybody, and somebody has moved up into your spot. And, eventually he got back into that, and then it just didn't go for him. I don't know what, and there is a stat out there as to how many goalposts and crossbars a player hits during the course of the year. But my guess would be that he's up there with most players in the National Hockey League, and, had lots of great chances, didn't finish. And then, like any player, not just a young player, you start to squeeze the stick. You start to question your confidence, even though when you look at his history, lack of scoring has never been an issue. And yet you get in the National Hockey League, maybe Nick Ehlers with his speed opened up some ice for Cole Perfetti last year. Moot point because Ehlers is gone. But it's nice to see him in the last number of games. You gave the stats out there. And he's back on that number 1 power play now. And we're starting to see what Cole Perfetti can do. So, it was a tough year for him, but he's not alone. Tough year for so many people. To see Nyquist without a goal so far is just unthinkable, because this guy has some skill, can play the game, has played the game, and just can't seem to find a way to score. And then that's been the issue. I mean, other than that top 3, and then Morrissey's come on. But for a while, Logan or Stanley was your fourth highest goal scorer on the team.
Right.
And which good for him. Talk about a guy that's going to cash in this summer. Good for him. But it's just kind of been that kind of a year where goal scoring has been tough to come by, especially in key situations. But it is good to see Cole Perfetti, and whatever happens the rest of the way here, you hope that for Perfetti's sake, he continues to put up some points and can, if it is not going to happen for playoffs, come back next year with some confidence, riding high and try and pick up where he left off, and hopefully he can keep it going between now and the end of the year, because he is a skilled player, very good hockey IQ, and the great play on the goal tonight. I mean, Kevin Sawyer pointed it out on the broadcast that the shot was meant for a rebound, and it was a perfect rebound, and Velarde buries it. So good for him.
Yeah, no doubt, Dennis, and Perfetti and Velarde scoring, and you too can score a great rate with Cambrian Credit Union. Getting a mortgage doesn't have to throw you off your game while you focus on home sweet home. Our friends at Team Cambrian Credit Union take care of the mortgage part with their low rates. Whether you're looking for a new home, renewing, or making the switch, Cambrian is your mortgage MVP. They can help you make the next season of your mortgage path easier and help you save money. That's what we call a win. Head to cambrian.mb.ca/rates for more. And we'll get a quick one more hit here. Denny, for Sweet Lou, if you have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. 204-791-9971 or at the office 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast. Spoke with Sweet Lou today. He's been enjoying the Jets season, despite the results that have been a little bit different. Now, Dennis, you touched on some of the struggles, and I got to tell you, I had it was a brief chat with Gus Nikos this morning. You can understand he hasn't, all we've heard, he's a great person, and I think he's done a great job handling an incredibly hard situation. 12 of 14 healthy scratches is not easy for anyone, whether you're 22 years old or 36 years old and have been in the league forever. This is a 5-time 20-plus goal scorer, 2 seasons removed from his career high of 75 points. But he's kept a great attitude. It's been challenging. His wife and kids are back home. He's been here on his own, but managed to push through. Made a great play on the game winner the other night. What are you seeing from his game? Maybe especially in the last, it stands out to me is that, New Year's Eve, there's a chance in the waning seconds. He's on the ice in a 6-on-5. He beats the goalie, Cam Talbot, but clangs it off the iron. I mean, here's a guy who's gone, I think it's now 41 games without a goal if you count the playoffs with Minnesota, but he still is able to create some offense. And for a team that's struggling to get offense, like, he's the kind of guy that might be able to get going here. What are you seeing from him and how he's handled a tough situation?
Well, the example you just gave is what his season has been. There has been opportunities where if that puck goes in, it kickstarts him and away he goes. But it doesn't go in, and now I guarantee you it was a difficult decision for Scott Arniel to pull him out of the lineup for the first time, because you sign this player as an unrestricted free agent because you know what he can do, and it's just not working. And then eventually you do it because you think maybe the one game from not being in the lineup will kickstart him and get him to see something different. Maybe that will help his game. And then after that, it doesn't go. So then you really have no option but to try and find some other players, that maybe can find some offense. And it's been hard on him. It really has. I know it has. I haven't talked to him. You have, but we've talked to players over the number of years that are offensive players that it just, for whatever reason, it just goes south on you. And he's at that age where it's not going to get any easier. And, so now you start questioning yourself. Has age caught up with me? Are my legs gone? Are my hands gone? And you start questioning every part of your game. And you need some 3 good games in a row to get that out of your system and get going again. So not easy. It's difficult on him. And that's what you look at, there's other guys. When you look at their goal totals, more was expected, not only from them, but the team expected more from them. There's a lot after that top three offensively that would like to have produced a little bit more than what they have.
Yeah, and that's the other part too, Dennis. I mean, you've been around the game for a long time. I mean, last year it seemed like almost every player in the lineup is posting career high totals, and this year it's sort of been a lot of either regression to the mean or kind of law of averages or whatever else. I mean, how do you try to explain what you've seen in terms of, not just the individual performances, but having so many players kind of go cold at once? And the Jets have been mostly a one-line hockey team now. Two lines on some nights, but there haven't been a whole lot of nights where all four lines have been going. I mean, how challenging has that been to witness?
Well, it is, and it's hard to put a finger on it. And if there was an easy answer, they would have figured it out by now. And that, but one game leads to another, especially maybe, and it might even be more complicated this year because of the condensed schedule.
Right.
You don't get the 2 days of practice or the 3-day break where you get a day off, 2 days of practice, and then you play. Yep. And you can maybe work through, have a couple of real good practices, and that's what you take into the game. You take in, geez, I've had 2 really good practices here. Let's get this game going. You don't have that. You're going into that next game thinking, I had 3 great chances in the last game and never scored. And your mindset isn't where it needs to be, and then you start pressing. But it's been, not only just with the Jets, even with the Moose, there's some players there that you look at their offensive numbers and those numbers aren't what they want them to be. So it snowballs, and that's what happens. And then injuries, like we talked about the Perfetti injury. I think the injury to Dylan Sandberg hurt. Other players were banged up and missed some games. And then it takes you a while to come back again. And now you're fighting it because of where you are in the standings. I mean, it's a strange year. I mean, the defending Stanley Cup champions and the defending President's Trophy winners are very much on the outside looking in right now. And Florida lost tonight again. And we talked about this before. The Jets won, but despite the fact that they won, they're still 9 out because Utah won. And that's a situation you put yourself in when you have that many teams in between. So it's been a strange year for the Winnipeg Jets, and I feel for the organization because they made so many strides last year with the record that they had and the success they had, and then it's got to be mind-boggling to sit back and see what's happened in some games where it looks like you've got a 2-goal lead and you're off to a victory, and then all of a sudden something happens, and next thing you know, you're either in overtime and losing in overtime or winning in overtime, whatever the case may be. They have not been able to get on that roll, and it just hasn't happened. Last year it did. They got on runs right at the start of the year, had the great run. And even this year, you talk about them being 9 points out. If you look at that 11 games where they didn't pick up a win, if you had 4 or 5 points in that 11 games, all of a sudden you're right there with Nashville and San Jose and everybody chasing Anaheim, Utah, and LA and for those wild card spots. But again, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and ifs and buts. But it's been a tough year.
Yeah, Dennis. I mean, the other part. I mean, today's another example. Overtime used to be the Jets' superpower. You get Scheifele, Connor, and Morrissey out there, the game often never got past the first minute.
Yeah. And Hellebuck going down. You know what? And I mean, Eric Comrie is a very, very capable goaltender in the National Hockey League. And yet Hellebuck goes out and he goes through a stretch where he can't find ways to win, whether it's lack of goal support, whether it's a bad bounce, whether it's an off night, whatever the case may be. Everything just snowballed, and the condensed schedule didn't help that.
No doubt. Okay, Dennis, we're going to hand out the Flame and Comfort Award here to Phyllis. Sal Monson shows great composure on the ice when he's out there, and I sure haven't seen many mistakes at all from him. That is the Flame and Comfort Award of the good variety, Dennis. That's your KNR Hot Take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth-related. After 15 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort has moved to 1465 St. James Street. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep the warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. What are your thoughts, Dennis, on Elias now Solomonson? We're going with Elias now. He's updated us on the pronunciation guide. Obviously, especially, we know the first couple games there were lots of good signs from him, but also a couple of hiccups, as you would expect from someone playing their first few games. What stood out to you, especially in this second set of since the second call up, how he's really settled in on the back end, whether it's with Dylan Sandberg mostly or any of the other partners he's had?
Well, I've noticed a difference in him from the first call up to where he is now. He's much more calm. He's much more settled. With Miller being out and Fleury being out, Pionk being out, it certainly has enabled them to put him in the lineup on a regular basis. They've got 5 games after the break before the trade deadline. I think they'll go with the lineup that they think can give them the best chance to win. Neil Pionk should be back after the Olympic break and ready to go, so he'll be in the lineup. So then they'll have some decisions to make for a few games and then decide where they want to go. And I think it might be a little bit too early to say the 2 points on Wednesday against Montreal are maybe going to be a decision factor. I think that's a bit early, but I do think the 5 games after that will they'll see where they want to go. Kevin Cheveldayoff, I'm sure during the break we'll get an idea of what players they're willing to move, and then not just what you're willing to move, what are you going to get back for it? And then if indeed they get to that point, then I do think that we'll see some players from the Moose maybe come up and get an opportunity. I mean, team-wise, the Moose have been okay, but Brad Lambert's had a tough year. Cheeberkoff's had a bad year. I mean, it's offensively, and I shouldn't say bad year because I haven't seen them play, so I should clarify that right off the hop. I'm just going by the stats.
Yeah, no doubt.
But certainly
you're you're bang on. I mean, from talking with people, scouts, that
yes.
I mean, I think there's been signs for Lambert, especially lately. I think Chibrikov, Dave Manuk is at a lot of the games from Legal Curve. Yeah. He mentioned that was Chibrikov, one of his best games of the year. But I mean, for guys who started the year in the NHL, they haven't been putting up the kind of numbers they need to in order to force their way onto the NHL roster.
Well, and if you're those players, I mean, you understand where the Winnipeg Jets are in the standings and what they're going through and what these next 5-6 games are going to mean, because they have to be playing with the mindset that if indeed they do trade 2 or 3 players, I want to make sure that I'm the guy that's getting called up. Right. I want to make sure that I give them every reason to say this is the guy that deserves to get called up right now. So, but again, that's all going to play itself out. It's tough decisions for Kevin Cheveldayoff and his people, because you're right at that point. Tough to make up 9 points, at this time of the year to the end of the schedule. Stranger things have happened. You look at what the Buffalo Sabres have done.
Yep.
So it does happen. Not like it doesn't happen. But it's the jumping of the teams that makes it more difficult, because that some night you're going to win, but San Jose is going to play Anaheim, and one of those teams is going to win. Tonight, not that it really mattered. St. Louis is behind you, so maybe you wanted St. Louis to beat Nashville tonight. St. Louis has a big lead. Nashville comes back and wins. So, once you start needing help on the scoreboard, now you're in a bit of a different mess. So, but and they've showed that on this trip. Good for them. They came off a bad game against Detroit at home, went on this tough 4-game road trip where they could have looked at the standings and said, this isn't going to happen. They didn't. They beat New Jersey, went into Tampa and played a very good Lightning team. Down against Florida, found a way to come back and win, and found a way to get a point out of the game tonight in Dallas. So, they still have that belief, and they're still going to try, and they're still going to play hard. And get 2 points tomorrow, and all you can control is your own. And that's the old cliche, but they can't look at what Anaheim is doing or what Utah is doing, or other than the games that they play against. I think they have one with Utah left yet. I don't think they have any with LA, which is unfortunate. You'd like to have some games head to head with the teams you're trying to chase down, but that's the schedule that they have.
Speaking of having your needs solved, if you have any supplemental needs, health food needs, the good folks at Myers Drugs can help take care of you. They deliver citywide, and Glenn and Jonah can take care of all of those things. Check out Myers Drugs. Dennis, we touched on it here, but I mean, you sat in a GM's chair before at a different level, but obviously you know what it's like. I mean, how do you weigh that at the NHL level now? So for Kevin Cheveldayoff, he's got 8 pending UFAs. There are certain players he'd certainly, consider having back. What would you be comfortable giving an over-under on how many of those guys get moved versus how many they try to re-sign before March 6th?
Well, it may be a case of
or can sign
of what you're getting back.
What do you want to sign? Yeah.
Do you want to sign them? And if you don't, then even if you put them on the, you decide you're going to move them, what are you going to get back? And I guess, there comes a time when you say, okay, yes, this is good enough return for this player. I mean, the interesting one, and, you and I have talked about this before, is Logan Stanley.
Yeah.
What happens with him and you would have a far better handle on this than I do. I don't know if negotiations haven't started, if they've talked, the two sides have talked at all, or have the Winnipeg Jets decided that we're going to let this run to the end of the year and then see what happens, or have they decided that we've already made up our mind that we're going to trade Logan Stanley before March 6th. Tough decisions because of the year he's had. And again, good for him. I mean, it's been a marvelous year for him to be out. If you would have said at the start of the year, give me the odds of Logan Stanley being out on a 6-on-5 in early February in Dallas against the Stars, I'm not sure anybody would have said, yes, he'll be out there. And yet, we talk about the players that have struggled this year. He's been on the other side of that coin, where a lot of good things have happened for him. Even tonight, the shot goes off Rantanen, I think.
Yep.
And that's the kind of year it's been for him, and good for him. So again, tough decisions around his future with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm not sure what he wants to do. And I'm sure if you ask him, he'll say it's out of my control, which it kind of is to a point right now. Unless March 6th rolls by and he says, no, I'm not signing, then it is in his control. He's made that decision. So, I would think if they make the decision that we're not going to make the playoffs, or we're not going to add, we're not going to give up a whole bunch to add, because even if we do, we just get in and we'd lose in the first round or whatever. But you always want to get in. Once you get in, anything can happen. But if they make the decision that the playoffs aren't going to be, I can see 3 or 4 of those players, getting moved someplace. And I do think there's a market for some of them. I really do. Like, I think there would be a team that would look at Nyquist and for the same reasons the Winnipeg Jets signed him. Right. I think there would be some teams that would say, yeah, we'll take a look at him. But again, I'm just, I'm playing general manager now. So,
well, and we're also, we're trying to follow the breadcrumbs, right? So Gustav Nyquist is someone who's been traded 3 times at the deadline, once from Detroit to San Jose, once from Columbus to Minnesota, and once from Nashville to Minnesota. So obviously when people have looked to him for scoring in the past, I mean, again, he's a 5-time 20-plus goal scorer. So just quickly too, Dennis, A, what's it been like to see Jonathan Toews back? And B, I think Elliot Friedman reported on the Fan Hockey Show today that discussions are expected to happen between Toews' representative, Pat Brisson, and Kevin Cheveldayoff about the prospect of considering waiving the no movement clause. I mean, Jonathan is a guy who, I've said this a ton, he hates losing more than he likes winning, and he's won a lot. He had a ton of years in Chicago where they didn't make the playoffs at the end of his tenure there, came back to try to chase a Stanley Cup. I think it'll be interesting to see what is decided. But as someone who's known Jonathan for 20 years since he was getting ready for the draft, uh, I haven't. He hasn't told me this, but knowing how competitive he is, it wouldn't surprise me if he would be willing. If he thinks that the Jets are falling out of it, if he'd be willing or want to go to a contender and chase a fourth Stanley Cup. Where do you stand on that?
Well, the question would be, does he want to play next year? And if he does want to continue his career, then I think he has to have some serious discussions with the Winnipeg Jets. First off, let's go back to when they signed him.
Yep.
To me, it didn't matter what kind of a year Jonathan Toews had on the ice. It was a great signing. I just think it was too good of a story and too good of a signing to let it go by. They got it done. Outstanding. And if Jonathan Toews wants to play again next year, then I guess the Jets would have to sit down and make a decision here. Okay, does he fit into our plans? He's been good in the room. He's good on faceoffs. Showing some spurts where it's gone very well for him, like the rest of the teams. Other times it hasn't. But it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that the other day, whether or not he would be a player that would waive his no movement clause to go someplace else. I would have to think there's going to be a market. I would think Kevin Cheveldayoff will get some phone calls saying, will Jonathan Toews move at the trade deadline? So, he would be a good addition, experienced guy, knows the playoffs. If you're in a tough spot in the playoffs, could calm everybody down a little bit, I think, and be so good in the room. And I think he could still contribute on the ice. I don't think his faceoffs and there's always a role for a veteran player, especially in playoffs when the game changes a little bit.
Yeah, and the other part too, we know that some of the other teams that were interested in him in the summer were the Colorado Avalanche and Tampa Bay Lightning. And having seen Tampa, Tampa's a great story, Dennis. You've seen it. They've incorporated their youth to an incredible degree. I love the way Dominic James played the other day against the Jets. Looked great again on the outdoor game. But Jonathan Toews is potentially a third or fourth line center. Out there to win draws. This guy knows how to win. I think he would make a lot of sense there. And same with Colorado. Colorado's having a great year, but their fourth line depth has been kind of up and down. They've test driven a ton of guys from the Colorado Eagles, who, and again, speaking of cool stories, former Jets forward, the mustard man, Mark Letestu, doing an outstanding job in the American Hockey League as their head coach of the primary affiliate there. But those are two teams that stick out to me that make a lot of sense. I've always wondered about Edmonton, Dennis. Not just the connection with Bowman, but to me, for a team trying to get over the hump, I thought that they made sense, 3 years ago at the deadline. If he was going to be healthy enough, it ended up being not healthy enough. But, a guy to be in the room with Connor and Leon in some of those tense moments, that's another team that really makes a lot of sense to me, even though they'd have to do some cap gymnastics and the Jets would probably have to, retain 50%. But, those are three teams to me that could make sense if he wants to, if he wants to chase another ring.
And you mentioned the young guy, James. That's where it becomes a key part of the game as you get into play down the stretch and into playoffs. If you've got a line out there with some young guys, a young centerman, and they've iced the puck 3 times in a row, and they're out of gas, and all of a sudden Edmonton throws out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Who would you sooner have out there, a 21-year-old with 35 games of NHL experience, or Jonathan Toews? Who would you sooner have out there? So that's where the teams that, like Colorado, Tampa Bay, the teams that are serious contenders here, would have some interest in a player like Jonathan Toews. But ultimately, it'll be what he wants to do. He's got 3 Stanley Cups. It's not like he has to chase his first or anything, but it's always nice to win. And there'll be lots of interesting storylines here as the Olympic break comes to an end, and the NHL schedule resumes. With, in the Jets' case, I think they have 5 games between post-Olympics and the trade deadline.
Sticking with centers quickly before we get to the Johnson Group Award, Dennis. I mean, you've seen Mark Scheifele from the very first year. He was drafted by the Winnipeg Jets in the generic dark jersey at the XL Energy Center. What are your thoughts on his season, and maybe a thought about the snub from the Olympics? And as a guy who's trending towards a 100-point season, 2 more assists today. Just overall thoughts on what you've seen from Mark this year.
I thought he was going to get picked when Connor Bedard went down, and there was a couple of other injuries. I thought there was going to be an opportunity there for Mark Scheifele to make the team. I think nobody expected Celebrini to do what he has done. So he has filled a roster spot. Tough to say that he's not going. And then you've got the coach wanting to know his players scenario, where John Cooper has taken a couple guys from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Cirelli got hurt the other day. I don't know what his status is, whether he's, going to be good to go or not, whether Braden Point's going to be good to go or not. He's skating. So there may still be an opportunity here for Mark Scheifele. I don't know when the final roster has to get selected here. I think they leave in about 4 or 5 days. They leave for
Friday
for the Olympics on Friday. So now nothing says you can't bring a player over later if you have to, but there will be some difficult decisions and some question marks over the next few days to decide what they're going to do. And I would have to think that him and Connor Bedard are in that group. That Bennett would be another one in that group. If we do have an injury, who's coming? And it'll be interesting meetings. Like all those meetings, there will be players that or people that are going to say Mark Scheifele's our guy. There's going to be some that say Sam Bennett's our guy. Yeah. It's going to be hard to overlook Connor Bedard and that. So, but that's why those guys get the big bucks.
No doubt. Dennis, time now for We've Got You Covered play of the game, proudly administered by our friends at the Johnson Group, the OGs. For me, Dennis, I'm going to go with the Jets penalty kill during the 74-second 5-on-3 there. To me, I mean, you've already given up a power play goal. This is a team that has the second best power play in the National Hockey League at 30% going into the game, the number 1 home ice power play. Jets able to get a clean kill, survive it, and kind of build a bit of momentum from there. Anything else stand out to you? Maybe unheralded plays in the game?
I think the response to tie the game up 1-1 as quickly as that happened.
Yep.
Dallas gets the opening goal, and I think it was a minute 38 later or whatever, they come back and tie it 1-1. So that would be the other part, but there's no doubt the 5-on-3 was a huge kill.
Yep, very good. Dennis, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's number 1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is a simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And thanks again to our friends at the Johnson Groups, the OGs of the Kenny and Renny Show sponsorships. Dennis, that'll bring us to the Keg save of the game. What stands out to you at either end of the ice? There were plenty of candidates on both sides here in this one.
Well, it has to be Ottinger in overtime on Scheifele because it saved them the game. It got them 1 extra point. Scheifele scores there. The Jets come away with the extra point. The Dallas Stars don't. So that one to me is rather simple.
Yep, same here. I couldn't agree more. It doesn't matter what I think. Matters what you think, folks. If you'd like to chip in and give your thoughts on the Keg save of the game, please do so, either on the comments section or in the live comments, or you can send Renny or I a note. The winner from our last show is Leslie Mitchnick. You know what to do. Contact Sean or myself. Probably contact me, with Sean being in Italy. Brought to you again. Keg Save the Game, brought to you by our good friends at the Keg. Visit any of the 3 Winnipeg locations, each location finer than the last. Dennis, just about to wrap up here. Any other thoughts that caught your attention about either how the season's going or where it could be headed here heading into the Olympic break?
Well, I just like what they've shown on this road trip, that there's still belief in that room. And they're gonna play this thing until they are up, one or the other. And from a management standpoint, you touched on this earlier. How do you view this? When we used to sit back, I don't know how many times we would do the rest of the schedule. Now there's still
Right.
quite a few games left. Usually we did this with about 8 or 10 games left or 15 games left, and you'd go through everybody you were to battle with for a spot. And okay, well, they're going to lose this game. We'll win this game. They'll win this game. We'll lose this game. And then you saw where it all came out. But so that's going to be the interesting part. Things will calm down because everybody get wrapped up in the Olympics here, as we should. It'll be really exciting. You have some very good teams, not just Canada and the U.S. Czech has got a good group of people there. Finland, Sweden are always tough, and that. So it's Kevin Shoveldayoff and his people. My recommendation would be take a few days off here after Wednesday to just decompress and calm down a little bit, because it's been difficult, and go from there. And then after a week goes by of maybe a little bit of relaxation, as best as you can under the circumstances. Let's be realistic here. There's not a lot of relaxation that's available.
Right.
Decide where you want to go and see what you think, and get a good handle on, okay, these are the guys we'd be willing to move. This is what we can get for them, and get your ducks in a row, and then kind of go from there and see what the 5 games before the trade deadline brings, and go from there. And then you got to make the decision about Logan Stanley as to what you want to do with him.
Right on. And last one, since you mentioned the Olympics, with all due respect for the good folks on Team USA and Kyle Connor and Connor Hellebuck and Nina Reiter representing the Swiss, what's it like to see Josh Morrissey get this opportunity there? Dennis, I know you were there at the beginning when he was drafted. You saw him break in on a pairing with Dustin Byfuglien. You saw him shift into a shutdown role with Jacob Trouba. You've seen him become a top 10, top 5 even NHL defenseman. What do you think it's going to be like watching him in Italy?
It's funny. I was at the Rockets game, Kelowna Rockets, who were hosting the Memorial Cup. I was at their game the other night against Prince George, and there was Prince George has a couple of fairly high draft picks, so there was lots of NHL scouts there, and we were having a conversation about the Winnipeg Jets and about the Olympics and everything else that went along with it. And they got talking about Josh Morrissey and exactly what you just said, how Dustin Byfuglien was his partner, Dustin leaves. Jacob Trouba was his partner, Jacob Trouba leaves. And so Dylan DeMello comes in there and is filled in admirably. But you would like to see a big name. And again, what do? Just pull somebody out of the air and say you're going to be a top 25-minute game defenseman? But you know what? Happy for Josh Morrissey, such a class individual, such a good player, and really good for him to get into that dressing room with all these. It didn't finish well for him with the Four Nations, with missing the game.
Yep,
but good for him. Yeah, good for him to be in amongst all these stars.
Right on, Dennis. Thanks for joining us, and folks, thanks for investing your time. Did our best here with Renny being on the road, and
you got my address to send the check, right?
Yes, indeed, 2 eyes and invoice, Dennis.
Yes,
you taught me well, folks. If you enjoy the conversations that are happening, we implore you to check out and support our sponsors who make these conversations possible. That's Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, the good folks at Vittorio Rossi Cambrian Credit Union, our main man Lou Furlan, the good folks at Pristine Roofing, Myers Drugs, Johnson Group, the OGs, the good folks at the Keg, and the folks at Flame and Comfort. Thanks again. We'll do this again on Wednesday after the final break before the Olympics. And thanks again for my good friend Dennis Bayak for being with me in the co-host chair. Have a good night, everyone.
Ken, you take care. Enjoy the Olympics.